Hello YouTube, this is TERA667, and we are here with our Season 8 draft analysis for the BBR. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to CV Marcus for making these draft slides that we're about to see. So, shout outs to them. Also, shout outs to D-Ray for allowing me back into the BBR. So, I'm excited to get a new season going. Hopefully, we can erase some of the bad luck we had from last season going into this season. So, going into the draft, we were the 13th pick, so we were kind of far down there, 13 out of 16. Not really a great pick position. We don't get a wheel, we don't get like a semi-wheel, and we are towards the back end of the draft, so a lot of the best mons early on are taken before it gets to us. However, we were still able to snag Tornadus T. Now, of course, Tornadus T isn't as good as it was previous gen just because of how power creep has been working against it. However, it's still a really good mod, still gets regenerators, still has really good speed, still gonna be bulky, and also now has access to Bleak Windstorm. So it trades 10 power for 10 accuracy for versus Hurricane for a flying type stab. So that works pretty well for it. And then, so also a really good glue mod, like great pivot. Just overall, it can really fit with like anything. So I think it's just a really good start for a draft. And then going into the next pick, we got Kirim. Now, I love Kirim. I think Kirim's amazing this gen. I would put it up there with Baxcalibur, if not better than Baxcalibur, just because Baxcalibur is kind of stuck running physical sets, even though it cannot be burned. You can just kind of wall it. Kirim is harder to wall because of the simple fact that it has just as high of a special attack. It can work both as a physical and special breaker. It still has access to Dragon Dance, similarly to Baxcalibur, and it has a little bit more base speed, so it can like outspeed those base 90s, get speed ties with 95s, and just drop Dracos, spam Ice Beams, click Freeze Dry, that sort of thing. It lost Roost, so it isn't able to like stall out as it used to be in previous gens with Pressure, Stall, and Roost, but still able to hit really hard, just like running choice spec sets. It could be a choice scarf if it wants to be life orb sets, that sort of thing. So really start like breaking mons or just be like a nuisance overall to my opponent. So it's kind of why we got Kirim. Pick 3, I got Slowking. So the big thing, Ice got a buff for Gen 9. It now gets a defense boost whenever Snow is on the field. So one of the best Snow setters being Slowking with Chilly Reception as a pivot move. Sort of like how it used to have Teleport, now has Chilly Reception. Kind of works the same way because Slowking is moving last no matter what. The only difference is when it sets Trick Room, it won't be able to go last on the Teleport. It will still have to go first with the Chilly Reception. So it is not exactly like Teleport, but it's still like pretty much going last most of the time. So it can work as like a safe pivot into Kirim, give Kirim that defense boost, and just make Kirim a lot harder to kill. It's also a really good wall, a special wall that can just tank any special hits. It can work as a physical wall versus like stuff that doesn't have like super effective coverage to hit it, and just overall adds to that regen core with the Torn 2. Next we have Donphan. Now if you remember my BBR D-League Season 1 team, Donphan was kind of the hero of that team, bringing us that championship, so I really wanted to get him again. He works as an excellent spinner. Not the best spinner in the tier, of course, but definitely one of the better ones. And so I'm very happy to have him. Really helps that, like, especially since like my team is currently like very weak to rocks, and having a way to reliably get the rocks off the field, and like if they want to go into their ghost type, you can click knock off and deal huge damage to the ghost type. So it works reliably as a spinner. It can also deal a bunch of damage with stuff like Head Smash, Earthquake, Ice Shard, that sort of thing. So it works both as a great physical attacker as well as a good spinner. It can also be a defensive mon, help be the defensive mon to the Slowking special defense, and really build on from there. Next up, we have the Ursaluna. So I've never used Ursaluna before, and I've always wanted to use them, and I was like, you know what, why not now? So as you can tell, we already have a Slowking, so we have a Trick Room setter. Now I just wanted something that can like take huge advantage of Trick Room, so I got Ursaluna. And so, it also works as like Ursaluna can also work as a physical breaker, along with Kirim's special breaking properties. and just add to like a way to break for like setup sweepers later on to just win in the end game. So we have the Ursaluna, of course. Kyurem can also work as a setup sweeper for Ursaluna breaking for it, so that's also pretty huge. And I mean, Ursaluna can work as a sweeper in the end game. Like if I get like end game Trick Room up, and then Ursaluna comes in, clicks SD, and then nothing really wants to face it anymore. So that's pretty huge. It has access to Headlong Rush, so it isn't really afraid of like grassy terrain or that matter. It hits harder with that than it does Earthquake as well. Of course, having access to Facade, Body Slam, that sort of thing. It's pretty much like a few tricks pony, but it does its tricks very well, so I'm very excited to use it here, especially on this team with like the support it gets. Next we have Bronzong. So I was really weak to like a lot of typings, and Bronzong just kind of works as like a catch-all to like all the types I was weak to. I need an Ice Resist, get Bronzong. I need a Ground, like Edgequake Resist, get Bronzong. I need a Flying Resist, get Bronzong. I need a Fairy Resist, get Bronzong. So Bronzong is just the catch-all way to like take on all of like my team's weaknesses. It's also a secondary Trick Room setter along with Slowking. And like the difference between it and Slowking is its pivot move is Explosion, so it takes itself out, but it works as a great pivot move after a Trick Room is set. So it clicks Trick Room, it clicks Explosion, and I get a free switch into like my Trick Room sweeper like Ursaluna. So happy to have also a secondary rocker outside Donphan, because I've loved running Assault Vest Donphan so many times before. Maybe I'll run them again sometime, so I'd like want to run rocks on Bronzong, so I can get rocks up with Bronzong instead, that sort of thing. So we got that secondary Trick Room, that secondary rocks there, that like defensive like resist pivot that my team desperately needed. So happy to get them. Next we have Sylveon. Now I wanted like something that can also like, it can work both as like a Trick Room sweeper, or it can work as like kind of like a scary Scarfer, or just overall be like really annoying to take on, like especially Dragonmons. Like a lot of the Dragonmons, like those scary ones, happen to be special. So Sylveon can just take those on like to the moon and back, like Hydreigon, Special Hydreigon, Walking Wake, that sort of thing. So we got the Sylveon here. Of course, it's not going to be doing so hot versus stuff like Gouge Fire or any of the physical dragons, but special dragons it can take on forever. It can really like spam Hyper Voice, it can do a bunch of damage because it still has really good special attack. It can click Wish into Baton Pass, be like a Wish passer for the team. With my regen team plus Sylveon, this team is just going to live forever pretty much. Like you really have to like break through this team in order to really beat it. So it's definitely like different than I'm usually used to building, more like hyper offensive build. This is more of definitely like a balance slash stall team. So it's definitely gonna be really annoying to take on overall. So happy to have Sylveon. I do have to be like weird of stuff like Throat Chop, taking away Hyper Voices. So sometimes we may need to bring Moonblast. Also, Sylveon gets access to Quick Attack, which is really fun to take stuff on like Urshifu, Single Strike, or Hydreigon. Just kind of like trick them into like maybe they think they can like pick Sylveon off, like they hit a weak like Wicked Blow or Flash Cannon or whatever, and instead Sylveon just clicks Quick Attack and boom, dead. Because none of those mons really want to take Quick Attack, even from a like especially offensive Sylveon. Next up we have Skuntank. Now I've always drafted Skuntank. I think like every gen I just love drafting this thing. It has such an amazing typing, really only being to ground types, as well as on top of the fact they gave it knockoff this gen, so I could like start spamming knockoff, getting rid of items like Assault Vest to like help with Kyurem breaking through, getting rid of like resist berries for stuff like Ursaluna or even Torn or something on that sort of thing, like getting rid of like passive recovery like Leftovers and so on and so forth, and just being like a general nuisance, as well as getting that grounded poison typing is so huge here. As like as beforehand, my team was kind of like not liking Toxic Spikes. I mean, Ursaluna does get a Guts boost off of it, but outside of that, I wouldn't want to like have to keep running Boots on my team just to handle Toxic Spikes, especially for stuff like Sylveon that can be chipped down, or Donphan for that matter. So I'm really Just wanted to get something to soak up those T-Spice, and Skuntank was actually pretty cheap, so very happy to pick it up. Next up we have Mienshao. So this completes my trio of regen, and this also helps like fill up the speed gap between Torrenti and Kyurem. I was like a little over 25 base speed gap there, so wanting to fill it up with Mienshao just so we don't have the 110s feeling like they can run modest versus me sort of thing. So with Mienshao, fills up that gap, gives us the another regen mon, of course, and great pivot, just spam U-turn. It's spam U-turn versus stuff that would come in versus it, like fairy types or even like ghost types and that sort of thing. So getting in a ghost type, you can go into stuff like Ursaluna and then just like 1v1 the ghost type, which is its dual stab of ground. Not dual stab, but it's stab ground moves. Or like crunch or whatever. Then it can also go into Skuntank and scare out fairies or that sort of thing, chip stuff down to get into range for my mons later on as well. Also works as like a special clean, not special, a scarf cleaner in the end game as well. It has access to triple axle, so like flying types wouldn't want to come in versus this so safely. Risk getting hit by triple axle and just pretty much dying there. So great mon overall to add there. And then finally we have Flareon. So at the end, I wanted something to like, I wanted another fairy resist. I didn't want Bronzong having to like resist everything, as is pretty much what it was set up to, what it was doing originally. So I ended up getting Flareon as well, and Flareon also doubles like a fire immunity. That really helps for my team, as like my fire resist was originally just a Slowking, so that could have been an issue versus stuff like Gouging Fire. Which, to be fair, Flareon doesn't take on Gouging Fire as well, but it is what it is. But overall, Flareon just like helps patch up that. It gives me another evolution, you know, so I have the Regen Core plus the Evolution Core, and so that's 5 mons coming every single week just like that, boom, and just tack on Ursaluna at the end game. Yep, and that's the 6. There you go. Those are the 6 that are coming every week, and it hits really hard, base 130 attack, and if I get a Trick Room up, this can also work as a Trick Room sweeper as well. Its speed is kind of low, and having Trick Room really helps with it. It also like it wears itself down a lot, being like a Guts mon, and so like having that Wish support from Sylveon can really help it out. So it kind of just sits there as like a secondary breaker as well. If like I want to use Ursaluna more as like the end game sweeper, Flareon can be like a physical breaker as well. Hit stuff like take on grass types as well that aren't able to really take it on, sort of thing. So yep. So that is the team. We only have 10 mons this season instead of 11 like we usually do, but that's the team. Definitely a bit different, more Trick Room based, more regen plus switch based. I'm going back to the Gen 8 roots and just being that. And so yeah, that is the team. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next week. Peace.